Hi, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Vigil team Zoom call that happens every Monday. And today we have Darshan Shanti for session three of the 24-hour champion. Last week we went through that life satisfaction survey, and it really opened the eyes to a lot of people. There was a lot of good work that happened from there. A lot of great feedback came from you guys as well. And the episode's been watched quite a few times, or the replay's been watched quite a few times already. So there must have been some things that struck a chord that people had to go back and listen to. So, being that we are a little light today, I'm hoping that people will go back and watch this replay as well. So, welcome, Darshan. Welcome back.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Zippy will be here soon. He had an appointment with a guy that had to come to the house, and he'll be on in a little bit. Yeah, this has been wonderful, and I'm honored every week to have had this opportunity and to continue to do it and to help make a difference for you guys in whatever way I can. And I'm pressing forward. And Chuck, I'm glad you're here. And Annie, I hope you can hear us, and I'm glad you're here. And let me just check in. I usually get a kind of do a thermostat thing and thermometer thing and see where everybody is. Uh, as far as last week, Chuck, what did you take away from it?
Ah, mm,
So you're automatically on the hot seat because you're on camera and
I know that
Annie's not.
Annie is not on camera, right? Right. Now let me see here.
We talked about the life satisfaction survey and being where you are now compared to where you really want to be, and that was eye opening, like Michael said, for a lot of people.
Oh, it very much so was, yes. Um, and basically just told me that, yeah, a lot of where I thought I was in life and where I needed to be are just two different, completely different areas. And if I really am truthful with myself, that's it's painful on a lot of ways, yeah.
You first of all, you said some wonderful things. If I'm really being truthful with myself, how many people are really not truthful with themselves? They find ways to make justifications and excuses and give all kinds of reasons, or they have all kinds of knowledge about why they're not good enough in some way, or why they can't do something, or whatever. And so those excuses make them feel better temporarily, but in the long run, it causes a lot more pain, which leads into the second part you said that was wonderful. You said it's painful. That's why most people avoid it. In fact, in chapter three, which we could talk about today, skipping over, I forgot to lock my dogs out, skipping over chapter two. At the moment, chapter two is all about forgiveness. If there's anybody or any group or any whatever church or whatever, like the hospital killed my father, I had to forgive them. And that's a true story. And my parents and all the challenges growing up, lots of forgiveness, but really forgiveness was about me. And I had to forgive me for not being the person. Hi, Brenda. I had to forgive me for not being who I needed to be. So that's what chapter two is about. But chapter three deals with pain and pleasure. And most people spend their whole lives avoiding pain and trying to gain pleasure. That's why we don't want to work out or lose weight or do the hard stuff because it's painful. So what happens when the pain hits? Oh, that's too much, so we avoid it. Well, you can either deal with the pain now that's temporary and much less, or you can put it off for days, weeks, months, years, decades, and then have it be really, really tremendous. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
It's like, I promise if you deal with it now, it'll be a lot easier. Have you ever noticed that people have gotten very sick from lack of diet or lack of exercise, bad diet, smoking, whatever they've done for their whole lives? And the doctor says, you keep going down this route, you may have 5 years to live. And then all of a sudden they're health fiends, right? They get rid of everything. They stop smoking. They go to the gym. they lose 80 pounds, because they're going to die, right? Because the pain, see, here's what happens about pain and pleasure. The pain of staying where you are outweighs the pain of changing. But until that happens, people have it the other way. The pain of changing outweighs the pain of staying where you are. Or, in other words, it's more pleasurable for you to stay where you are and more painful to change. And when those two reverse, the whole world begins to open up for you. When it becomes fun, like working out, I'll give you an example in my own life. So I've been doing an accountability with Zippy, and I'm wearing a shirt today that actually fits, that I haven't been able to wear in years. I'm down, thank you, Brenda. I'm down 20 pounds so far since I started. My goal is another 20. I know we talked, I was all confused. I was so in the moment last week at the end. I'm like, I'm going to lose 10 pounds in a week. And I didn't mean that. I meant 10 pounds, and I should have probably said at least 15, whatever. But my goal weight is not in a week. My goal weight is another 20 pounds. So I weighed in at I just call it 195 because it was 194.9. So I want to get it to 175. And as long as the scale says 175, then I can reevaluate. But here's why I brought that up. The work, I always point that way because that's where my gym is. Hey, let me close the door so it doesn't ruin the. Sorry about that. So I point over there because it's my gym. So I've been doing 2 cardio workouts a day for 50 minutes total. I run 2 miles as fast as I can, and then I ride my bike or do the elliptical for 30 minutes. Or I'll do one in the morning and one at night. And also, I do a weight workout. So, 2 different body parts, one body part, 2 different exercises. Hello. 2 different body parts and different exercises for each body part every day, except yesterday I took off. Now, why am I telling you all that? It's not about me. I used to I didn't mind cardio. I always loved cardio, but I never did 2 workouts a day, let alone 2 workouts and a weight workout. Why? Because it was too painful. It was too much. It was like, oh my God, because it takes, an hour and 15, 20 minutes. I'm like, well, here's the thing. The 20 pounds I've lost is more to do with the diet. Fasting, I'll go back to fasting. Fasting's it's been much easier for me, but it's still hard on some days, right? Some days when I'm tired or when I really want to eat and I have to control that. But here's the point. I never fasted before because it was too painful, like really fasted, like I'm doing now. Never done this in my life. Never worked out so much because it was too painful. But the flip happened. Now I look forward to doing the workouts. Now I look forward to it. And it's something I learned a long time ago. When you do the hard stuff first, it becomes easy. So now I look forward to doing it. So, like, if there's stuff in your business that you're putting off, whatever that might be, do that first to the exclusion of everything else, as long as it's going to move your business forward. Does that make sense? Right? Like, Brenda, does that make sense? You can turn your mic on. I like verbal.
Yep,
Okay.
that makes
I'm an auditory learner, so I like hearing stuff. So whatever it is, if it's contacting, doing the reach outs, whatever it is, do that first. And I don't care. And I told this to Zippy, who'll be on in a little bit. I know you had talked about people making a lot of calls, 60, 70, 100 reach outs a day. And if that's too much for people, start out with 20 or 30 if that's manageable, and do 5 every 5 hours or 6 hours and get to 30 at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, you did it. You did what you said you would do. You promised yourself you'd do something. You promised 30, you did 30, and you can go to bed at night saying, I did it, which leads me to the next step. What did I learn about myself? And this goes directly to you. This week of doing, and by the way, it doesn't stop. I'm not stopping doing 3 workouts a day. I'm not stopping fasting because I made it to the, oh, and I also didn't eat any sugar. That was magical because I love sugar. In fact, when somebody brought up sugar to me, I got mad. No, no sugar. So, what did I learn about all that? About myself? Same thing I'm trying to share with you guys. When you step out of your comfort zone, when you cross that pain pleasure principle, that demarcation line of what was painful and is now becoming pleasurable, so many things in your life change. And you'll learn things about yourself that you have never even believed. I learned myself that even doing 3 workouts a day, fasting 21, most days was 21. One day I'm like, something's off, and I was shaky and not feeling good. So I just ate, and it was a 14-hour fast. I'm fine. I still lost weight. My body needed more. But what I learned about myself was I could still do more. I didn't even know I could do what I did, but I could still do more. Do you know how magical that is, folks? Again, this isn't about me. If you start doing everything you say you're going to do, even if it's minor, and then when that gets minor, I don't mean minor, because what's minor to you may be major to somebody else, and what's major to somebody else might be minor to you. Wherever you are, whatever, as long as you're consistent and persistent and do what you say you're going to do, even if it's painful, you're going to learn a lot of magical things about yourself. You're going to prove to yourself, hey, this is easy. And you're going to start enjoying things more than you enjoyed. That is a cool thing. Chuck, Brenda, any questions about that?
No, and I think it's really cool that you're talking about that because I finished chapter 2 yesterday of your book, and then I'm also reading another book at the same time. And that's one thing they kind of talked about is like even if you accomplish small goals for yourself, it's the fact of accomplishing them that actually makes it a bigger deal than what actually the goal was. So even if you said, I'm going to walk to the mailbox and back, but if you accomplish that, then it's so much more self-rewarding than not accomplishing it at all.
My work here is done. You can just take over, Brenda. That was perfect.
Thank you.
Did you hear that, Chuck? What'd you get out of this?
No, basically, same thing she said perfectly.
She did. It's right. And I love that perspective just by doing it. I don't care if you said, I'm going to do 5 reach outs a day and you haven't done 5 reach outs ever, or 6 months ago you did 5 reach outs. As long as you do, I don't care if it's one, because you'll feel better about yourself knowing you did what you said you would do. And then you'll say, wait a minute, if I can do one, maybe I can do two. And that's the whole point of this. Let me give you a really cool exercise in my book, and you'll come across it. We're sort of skipping, for whatever reason, to chapter 3, which is about taking, I don't know if you can even, no, you can't, so sorry, taking total responsibility. And it plays on the other chapters very well, actually. Look, once you know who you are, if you got through chapter 1 and you said, wait a minute, I'm not this and that and the other thing. I'm not all those beliefs I believed about myself since I was a little kid. I'm not the conditioning that I programmed myself that I was from my teachers and fellow students or my parents or friends. I'm not who they think I am. This is who I am as a conscious, rational adult. And this is what I say I want for my life. And this is what's powerful. I have a quote in the book. And if you guys have the book with you? You guys have the book? Hold on. I think I can commit it. Yeah, there it is. on page 49. So there's a quote down the middle of the bottom right, almost bottom right, 3/4 down of the page. Do y'all see it on page 49? The moment I take full responsibility for my greatness, my magnificence, my pricelessness, and love myself unconditionally, that's when I will end all the internal struggles. And what did I say? Once and for all, have the life I've always wanted. Yeah. So the moment you take full responsibility for you, for the greatness, Chuck, that is you, for the greatness, Brenda, that is you, and Annie, if you can hear me, for the greatness that is you, Michael, of course, the greatness that is you. When you take full responsibility for that, it's amazing what begins to happen because you all are great. You all are magnificent. You all are priceless. Priceless, not, as we talked about, worth less. Y'all hear that? When I say priceless, watch this. When you know you're priceless, it's amazing what begins to happen. Certainly doing things that were painful before aren't as painful or not painful at all. In fact, they can become pleasurable. An example I talk about in the book, and I do this in live workshops. If you were standing, and what I do is I throw down a bunch of pens on the floor, like 20, 30 pens, and I tell people, make pretend these are nails and shards of glass. And you're standing right there in front of those nails and shards of glass, and you have to walk over them barefoot. All right? You have to walk over them. You cannot not. And like, hell no. So what are people going to do, right? They're going to stay standing there because it's too painful to walk across them. And then without even telling them, hello there, Armando. And so without even telling them, I tell them, look, here's what's going to happen. And I make pretend that I hold a gun up like that to their head. And I said, if you don't walk across these pens, these nails, in 5 seconds, you're dead. 5, 4, 3. They start running across. Now, what happened? Because the pain of staying where they are, called death, was far outweighed the pain of whatever pain they would think they were going to experience by walking across those nails and those shards of glass. So what happens, as Tony Robbins said this, I learned this like 30 years ago. What do you do when two pains bump up against one another? Well, you avoid the bigger pain, right? It's more pleasurable in that sense. And that's what I'm getting at here. Whatever might be painful to you about whatever it is you're doing in your business or your life, because as I said in the intro, I think a bunch, when I first talked to you, how you do anything is how you do everything. Whatever might be too painful to you, once you start realizing, by the way, means to make real who you really are, that you're wonderful, incredible, awesome, fabulous, tremendous, terrific. I could go on and on about all the positive adjectives, and it's not hype. It's true. And when you look back, just look. That's why I asked weeks ago who had kids here. I forgot who had. Chuck, do you have kids?
Mm-hmm.
And you have kids, Brenda, or no?
Nope.
No. Could you imagine telling your kids anything less than what I just told you? Like for real? Like when they're babies? How old are your kids again, Chuck?
I've got a 24-year-old and a 16-year-old.
Imagine, Chuck, when they were babies, calling them the names you've probably called yourself. I'm not singling you out. We've all called ourselves idiot and stupid and you're a dumbass and all this stuff. Hold on. I'll have to call him back. Does that make, we've all done that, right? You would never call a little baby that. Why would you call yourself that? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Never, never. But when you start doing the things you say you're going to do every single day, it's absolutely magical. And those words and phrases and all that will change into I'm a winner. I'm a champion. I'm the best. I can do this. I'm the top performer on the team. Michael, give me a unmute yourself for a second, would you, Michael? Give me a a goal that they can reach on the team? Is it a what? Give me a goal.
Producer.
A what?
Top producer.
Yeah.
Top producer. Give me something else.
Team leader.
Team leader. Is that above? That's above top producer, I guess, right?
It requires leading other people.
Good. Good. Could you, Brenda? I know you've got that in you. You're a leader. I can feel it. It's built in. I know where you're headed. Chuck, do you feel that in you too? You feel strong enough to be able to be a top producer and team leader? Is that even what you want in your life?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I was a ran a dealership, had 50 employees for years, and then I kind of got burned out and switched gears a little bit. So I need to get back to that. Uh, my nickname used to be the Bulldog. So
Really?
yeah, believe it or
Wow.
not, for years.
So what is it because you got burnt out that you don't want to go back, that you have gone the other direction?
I began to learn people better and
Okay.
how to deal with people better because as a young bulldog, you see things a lot differently than you do now, at 50 some years old. And plus my daughter kind of changed my whole perspective of dealing with people. She has Down syndrome, so uh, my whole world's different than reality's a lot different than most people's. So now, but I've got to get some of that bulldog back, is what I'm getting at. Yeah.
All right, let's get that bulldog back. But you don't have to be a bulldog in the angry sense. You can be a kick-ass guy. You can be a, like we said, a team leader, top producer, and whatever else. You could do that without being a bulldog. It's just about doing what you say and putting some of those tools and techniques you did without hurting people, without bullying or bullying them over, like you said, or maybe not caring how they felt or leaving them in a crappy way. When you said dealership, I assume car dealership.
Right.
Yeah, we should talk a little later. I got to buy a vehicle. I have some I have some ins and outs, but I'm sure I can learn a few more things.
Oh yeah.
I don't I don't want them to tell me BS. Oh, I can't give you a car any better. So anyway, besides that, you can do that, and like you can do it with kindness. Do you care about people?
Oh yeah,
Really
definitely.
care about people? Do you want what's best for them?
Definitely.
Right? There you go. As long as you care about people and want what's best for them, you know the old saying, some will, some won't. So who's next? Right? You can't help everybody. You can't do push-ups for them. Right? They don't want it. They don't want it. What do you find the most difficult about this business?
This business. Uh, well, right now, the most difficult thing for me is convincing people to make my second appointment. So that's
Ah,
that's it. Yeah.
to make the second, so you get on the phone with them and you talk to them about whatever you talk about, and then that requires an in-home visit after that,
Or a second appointment, a presentation
a
to close it
presentation.
up. Right.
Got it. And I'm sure Michael and the rest of the team teach stuff about how to do that. Is that correct?
Oh yes, definitely.
Okay, good. But it's still a challenge because when they say whatever they say, no, I'll have to think about it, that kind of thing, right? And then what do you do typically?
Well, usually you basically are just trying to express to them, there's three things that it could be: price, me, or the plan itself. Uh, but a lot of times people just kind of just tell you, yeah, no problem. I'll be there at 4 o'clock, and you think you've got it done, and then you can't, they ghost you. So that's,
Right.
yeah.
Isn't that fun?
Yes.
How many people at the car dealership, I'm making a point here, promised they'd be back? How many of the be backs did I ever promise to be back? Maybe a tenth of 1%.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We called here comes the be back bus, or they're going to get on the be back
They're
bus.
going to get on the be back bus.
Yeah.
Very, very rarely, maybe one out of two or 300, we're back, right? Is that accurate?
Right.
Right. You do everything right, and they still don't. They don't care. They're just that whatever. They don't want to tell you the truth, and so because they don't want to be quote unquote sold. So what do you do with that? You can't do much. You can. I don't know what your routine is to follow up with them a few times, and you do whatever they tell you, and then you just move on. Because the more time you waste with the people who don't want it is the time you could be spending with people who do. Is that correct?
Basically, yeah.
How does it make you feel when they say they're going to be there and then don't show up?
Well, it used to really bother me, but after years of it, it's like next. I mean, I hate
Next.
to say it, but yeah, that's kind of how it was.
Well, no, there shouldn't be. Hate to say it. Michael, is there a follow up procedure when people ghost you? Not you, but in general, the whole team.
Um, we have we have some texts that go into a thread. We have a whole playbook behind it. You know what I mean? So,
Okay.
though right now what Chuck's dealing with is he doesn't have the back end of the software that does it automatically for it, so he's on a manual basis.
Okay. Gotcha. So that's why it's a little challenging. I'm so you're saying, Chuck, that it doesn't bother you when people ghost you?
Well, before when I dealt with a large amount of people and I had, you know, people waiting to see you. In the end of my career, I was a finance manager, which is where I started. So I had people brought into me all the time. And, it's like it was like next. But now that you're, here you are sitting, you're it. And a
Hold
ghosted
on. I
person,
want to stop you on purpose. I want you to say I instead of you. You'll see why in a minute. So
uh,
when you're talking about yourself, say I.
well,
Go ahead.
I think it's much harder when it's just me. And I was lucky enough to break through to get a first level first meeting with the customer, and you only get so many of those out of all that you've done so far. And then when you're right at the finish line, and that finish line goes.
Hold on. I am right at the finish line.
Oh, I'm at the finish line, yes.
Yeah. So go ahead.
And it's just disheartening because there's not as many up to bats as what I was used to dealing with before, as far as that goes.
Well, in finance, it's different because people are brought to you and they need to have finance, most of them. So it's not like you have to sell them. Of course, there's warranties and all that. That's a
Right,
little different. And there's all that that goes with it, whatever. But I understand when people come to you, you feel better. And when people don't come to you, and when you do everything you can and you only get so far and you don't have as much at bats. So going back to my example about the glass and the rusty nails, I didn't say rusty before, but I am now. Rusty nails on the floor and the glass. It's too painful to make that next call or to do whatever you have to move on. That's kind of what I'm hearing with you. Is that
right,
accurate? All right, so it's easier not to do that than it is to make that next call. It's easier to stay where you are. And yes, it is temporarily easier, but in the long run, it will be much harder. Do you agree with that? Because that can't work in a business like this. If you don't reach out to people, it's over, because that's the lifeblood of everything. Right?
right.
Does that make sense? And I don't know what AI is doing, or if it's going to just be able to make 10,000 calls a day to people and schedule stuff and sign people up automatically. So you got to get now while the getting's good and take care of people and give them that human touch. So here's how many reach outs, how many substantive phone calls do you typically make in a day?
Oh, probably, I mean, anywhere from 60 to 90, and where I actually speak to people, probably eight.
Eight. That's what I mean,
Yeah.
substantive.
Yeah.
So eight. So eight out of 60 to 90, just call it for the sake of argument, 10%. Okay. And out of those 10%, you get usually what, one appointment, two appointments, three appointments, what?
Maybe one or two, if that. Yeah.
Okay, maybe one or two. So just we'll just call it one. So, and that's every day. So out of those one every day, you get one everyday appointments. How many of them turn into a second?
Well, if I get the first appointment to the second, probably maybe maybe one to a week.
A one or two a week go to a second. And then on the second, you're able to sign them up.
Uh, haven't had as
Maybe
much
not.
luck with that. Yeah,
Okay, you haven't
if
had
they show up, right?
I got you. Okay, so that's a whole other. I'm just trying to see what it is you're doing and where the challenge comes in. And if you're not signing them up after the second, what the issue might be. The whole point here is wherever the weakness is for anybody, whether it's you, Gloria, or Armando, or Annie, or oh, did she disappear? Brenda, I can't see her anymore. She may be here, but I don't see her. Wherever the issue may be, once you take full responsibility for that, saying, wait a minute, I can't do this. I can't live on one or two, if that, just even call it one deal a week. I need what would you need to feel good about yourself? Like if you're only selling one car a week, you wouldn't feel very good, would you?
No,
No. How many would you need every week?
I need probably six
Six. Six closed
deals.
deals where
Yeah,
people have signed up for whatever kind of insurance you're getting presenting to them, right?
right.
Okay, six a week as opposed to one. Obviously, that's a huge increase on one level and not a huge increase on another. It's not like you're going to make like 800 calls in a week, you know, to get to those six. It's just about getting better at whatever it is, wherever the weakness is, getting stronger. I'm happy to talk with you more about that after this call's over if you're open, and we'll deal with it. So that bulldog, but you'll kill them with kindness. You'll have, like, from one of my favorite songs, you'll have a thundering velvet hand. they, they, they will say yes to you because they have to. There's no, not because you'll force them into it. I learned a long time ago, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. That's not what we want. We want people to look at you and to go, thank you. You made a difference for me. You saved my life. I'll give Michael a little shout out. My mom passed away last year and left me 50 grand. And I know a ton of people in the financial services industry, a ton of people. And the only one I called was Michael. That was it. The only one. Because the know, like, and trust factor is there. He just presented, he did his job. He presented me all these options and told me why some were good, some were not, some were better than others, and let me make my own decision, gave me his feedback, and everything was good. And I just did it because he cares about me and he cares about my life and he wants to help. And that's how you will come across to people. You will, Gloria, you will, Armando, you will, Annie, and wherever Brenda went. I'll talk to Zippy about that later. When they know how much you care. You know the old saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care? If you had to get 5 appointments a week that were closed deals, 5 or 6, if you absolutely had to because you were going to be evicted, or something was going to be seriously, seriously wrong in your life, what would you do differently?
Just have to get more calls in.
Okay, just so you're doing almost 90 reach outs a day. They're not all calls, I'm assuming, right? Between 60 and 90?
Right. They're attempted calls.
Okay, attempted. So How many could you do if you had to?
Well,
Absolutely had to. You were going to be evicted or something negative, really bad was going to happen.
well, I mean, if it really came down to that, it could be, I don't know, you could do it for 10 hours a day if you had to. I mean,
All right, see, and that I love what you just said. And Michael, I don't know if you heard that about he could do, he could make 10 hours worth of calls every day if he had to. And that's why I brought up that whole example about the walking on the nails. Nobody has to walk across those nails until it becomes too painful for them to stay where they are. So your job is to create more pain by staying where you are than making those calls every day. Because then you'll gladly make those calls, to gladly have those appointments, to gladly bring in that money, to gladly be able to take care of your family the way you want to, so that you know you're responsible for you and you're responsible for your family. Because the number one responsibility we all have is to ourselves. Because when we don't take care of ourselves properly, we can't take care of others. Does that make sense?
absolutely.
So if you had to make 10 hours of calls a day versus the how many hours are you making now?
Uh, 3 to 4, just
Three to
depends.
four.
Yeah.
So there you go. You see the magic we have here? I understand we all have a life, and maybe you can get to a point where it's 3 hours and you got more business than you know what to do with. Maybe you have to hire somebody to set appointments for you in the future because you're so busy running them, you don't have time to keep filling that funnel. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And that's fine. That's where everybody wants to get to, right? The hard part is doing all the reach outs. But if there's something saying, wait, well, I don't really have to, I'm not in that bad a shape, that alone will start. Because when people say no to you, you'll start saying no to yourself. Let me explain what I mean by that. This is this is rather powerful stuff here. I'm just letting it, I got to feel it first and then I can say it. When I wasn't, I'm taking the heat off of you just so you can get it as an example in my life. When I wasn't eating right and when I wasn't exercising, it was so easy to say yes to all the crap. But when I was saying yes to all the crap, I was saying no to myself. Really saying no to myself. And when I said no to myself, I couldn't be there for other people the way I can be when I say yes. And I'm saying it's the same thing with you. Every time you don't do what you say you're going to do or the amount you know you're capable of, and you say no to yourself, when people then start to tell you no, because you've said no to yourself so many times, you'll just let them off the hook because you haven't said yes to you. I'm not talking about being a pushy, whatever, never taking no for an answer. I'm not talking about any of that. You will come across to them in such a magical way because you'll have said yes to yourself so much that more of them, not everyone, of course, will say yes to you. And when the objections come up, you'll be able to easily, in fact, less objections will come up and you'll be able to work around them. It's really, when I say work around them, you'll be able to say things to them in the presentation that will stop them from even asking the questions that they may object to now. You'd say, look, I've been doing this for so many years, and the number one thing people are concerned about is this, this, and this. So you're answering the personality or the price or the product, whatever the objections are, right away. And here's how we deal with that. And people are going to go, well, at the end, they're not going to have the things to object to that they may be objecting to now. Because when you're a yes to yourself, they're going to be a yes more to you. Just that is huge. I can't even tell you how big that is. In fact, I have never shared it the way I've just shared it now. No one has ever heard it because, Michael, you may get a kick out of it. Those words have never come out of my mouth. Chuck, what do you think about what I just said?
I mean, that's hitting the nail on the head right there. Yeah, I can see it.
Good. So you can see where you've been not doing all you can because because it's easy. No one's making you make those phone calls. No one's making you do anything. And if you're not in that bad a shape financially, way to go. That makes it worse, right? Because I don't
Right.
have to. I don't have to kills more businesses than anything. Here's what I've changed. I don't have to. I get to. I get to call this person today. I get to meet a new friend. I get to help someone today. I get to make a difference in their lives. I have a good friend of mine. He was a practicing physician, and he had this rather expensive insurance that he was paying for every month. He said he was about to cancel it, and it was they don't even offer it anymore because it was so crazy how much they paid out. If he got into a catastrophic injury where he couldn't practice anymore, it pays him $10,000 a month for the rest of his life. A month or two, I can't remember exactly, before he was thinking, I'm going to cancel next time around. I think it was a month. He got into a horrific motorcycle accident that he should have died. It was 20 years ago. This is not a misspeak to Gloria, to Armando, to Michael, and to you, Chuck, and Annie. This is the truth. They had to drill a hole into his head. You've heard that when the brain swells. Well, his brain actually liquefied. About 15% of his brain is missing. I mean, it's completely gone. It's not, there's a brain there and it's just not working. There's a hole there. It liquefied and got sucked out through their procedure. Everything works in his world except he can't practice medicine. Had he canceled that insurance, where would he be right now? He lives a life now, a great life, because I don't know how, but it's the same principle with you. If somebody reached out to him or he went on his own, the insurance made a huge difference. We all know the war stories. We all know the horror stories. What I'm saying, Chuck, is your family's pretty well protected, I'm guessing. Is that right?
Mhm.
And I'm sure you would want that. Don't say yes for the sake of I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sure you would want that for other people, right?
Yes.
Do you ever tell anybody about your daughter when you're talking to them?
Occasionally.
I'm not talking about using her,
Right.
but you love her with such, she's changed your whole entire world. And when you share that with people and you know that these parents, whatever, they got little kids, those kids have changed their own lives. They would want to make sure they were taken care of. That's the gift you provide, as opposed to a car. There's lots of cars. They can drive a beat up car. It can get They don't need that new. When did you retire from the car business?
Oh, this was just last year. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then they don't need a 2024. What they need is transportation to get, they can use a bus if they want. In this case, they need the insurance. This could save their lives or change their lives in the biggest way possible. Just as you feel, it's like if you didn't have insurance, we'd be having a whole different story. I mean, conversation right now. But you believe in it enough to take care of your family. Armando, I assume you're well covered now. You're still muted, Armando. I don't know if you can hear.
And look, I think he's on a call.
I don't see his mouth moving. Whatever, you get the idea. You can do far more. This is why I started out that about the lifting. I run for 20 minutes, I bike for 30, and I lift the weights. And what I realize I can do far more. And so can you. You can do far more. You don't have to commit and say the right thing in front of everybody. If you did that in the car business for all that, I know what you're capable of. It's hard, and especially managing people like that. Michael, how many times your team, the different teams, people just, they go into their head, they go away, all of that. You've lost, but you keep going, you keep moving forward, right? You
Absolutely.
keep rebuilding. What makes you keep going?
Well, it's belief in myself, one, and belief in what we do, right? Two, what we do is important, you know, and I know that here's the sad part about that reality, right? Who we start with isn't who we finish with, right? So, we can build this business solo or we can build it with a team. And I'd rather do this. I'd rather go far with a lot of people rather than by myself. Because I can make millions by myself, and I've done it, right? But you know my heart. My heart is I want to help other people do the same thing that I've done.
And that is so true. If you guys don't know that about Michael, take that quote unquote to heart. Just a little thing to what Michael did for me when I was selling my poems. He's really good with technology, and it's Illustrator, right? Yeah. I couldn't figure out how to use it, whatever. He literally typed up 16 poems for me. That was the amount. 16 poems for me so I could get them printed to use the Illustrator so I could give the printer something they could print off of because I didn't have the software. He's helped me so many times. My YouTube banner, he made it for me when everybody else flaked out. There was no way I was making it. He's just has such a caring, giving heart. And like J. Paul Getty said, you remember Getty Gasoline? Did you ever hear Getty Gasoline? Yeah. J. Paul Getty was at the time one of the richest men in the world. He said, I'd rather have 1% of the efforts of 100 people than 100% of my own. And that's what I'm saying. You've got an amazing, amazing leader here. You've got a winner. You've got somebody who cares about you guys so much. And no, Michael, you don't have to pay me. I know you want to, but I'm going to pump you up anyway. Keep the money. And that's what I'm saying. He cares about you so much. When you care about you so much, just as you, Chuck, you care about your daughter, Armando or Gloria or Annie, everybody, Brenda, Zippy. Zippy's lost a bunch of weight now on this plan. He stopped. Hey, if he was here, I'm not talking about him. He'll probably watch the replay. He stopped caring about himself and look, but now he's down, I don't know, 6, 7 pounds already. He's working out. He's fasting. He's getting back to himself because he believes in himself, because he's taking responsibility for himself, because the pain of staying where he is too much. It was affecting too many things in his life. This is what I'm getting at for each and every one of you. Taking that step, whatever that step is for you, doing more, you'll feel better. You said 60 to 90, Look, if you got to go reach out, Chuck, if you only, yeah, I know you can buy leads, leads run out, whatever. What would a person who's a multi millionaire do who's been doing this business for 30 years? Whatever he or she had to do, it doesn't matter if it's going through social media, if it's taking out ads on social media, if it's just picking. Do we even have phone books anymore? You understand what I mean? You have a
Well,
phone book.
we
What?
do have one team member that just went door knocking. I
Door
mean, talk
knocking.
about impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, no. He is it a he or she?
Is
He,
Richard?
Richard.
Richard. Door. Look how amazing that is. Door knocking. Why? Because he said, "This is my business, this is my life, and this is where I see my future." So if he just decided to knock on 20 doors a day to get the number up or whatever he decided, and he did, and even if he got one closed appointment out of several hundred door knocks a week, whatever, could be more. It's one more than he had, and you never know who that one is. It's like what I talked about in the first. Zippy really liked it in the first week about the 1 degree difference. 211 degrees is really hot. 212 degrees boils water. That 1 degree more of difference. And with water, you can power, it creates steam, so you can power giant engines. You get the idea. That's that 1 degree more. Chuck, I know you can do a lot more than one. You just have to make that decision. I thank you, by the way, Chuck, for being such a willing participant in this because everybody has learned something from you by doing this. Everybody, and I hope you. What have you gotten out of this? Because we got to wrap up pretty quick.
Just perspective. I mean, that's really good. And it's true. It's been hard to do certain things, with what I need to do with my daughter, but I still have a lot more time that I can take advantage of to do that in between there. And
Good,
I just got to keep sharpening the skills and keep hammering away at it.
good. So if you've said to everybody, I have a lot more time. Now the question is, how will you use that time? What will you commit to? If when you say a lot, does that mean 2 hours a day more? 3 hours a day?
I'd say probably 2 hours at least. Yeah.
Okay, great, at least. So how will you use that 2 hours to your benefit? This is not about Michael, not about anybody else. How will you use it for your benefit?
Probably an hour extra in phone calls and an hour extra in learning and
Okay,
closing
okay,
and all that.
okay. There's some two things. I don't know, maybe closing using certain techniques, but you were in the car business a long time. I'm sure you could sell ice to an Eskimo. That's not the issue. Maybe there's certain words or phrases. And so learning may help you. I would do learning in your off hours if I were you. And I would spend that 2 hours doing productive things that are going to bring you money.
RGH. So we call that revenue generating hours, right?
Yep.
Perfect. Study in your off hours, do the RGH now. Listen, I think you got that. You do with it. We'll talk about that next week. And if you want to reach out to me with any of that I, stuff we talked about earlier, just send me it. You have my number.
Okay.
It's not there now, but it's on the back of your poem. Um, uh, just reach out to me if there's anything you want or need. You, Chuck, anybody, I'm happy. This was a wonderful, wonderful call. I had no idea this. All I do is I tune in, tap in, and do what there is to do. And this was perfect.
It is perfect, Darshan. Thank you for that because like I was telling Chuck last week, I said he's on the verge. He's on that cusp of breaking through because he keeps showing up. He committed to his resources, so he's gotten resources every single week, right? He took some extra resources from me and was able to get the additional reps and got some additional touch points with people. So I feel it. And just the fact that you guys were able to connect today and hone in, I hope that you take that to heart, Chuck, and that it's one of those things that you know that you can do, right? So we're all rooting for you. We're all rooting for everyone, honestly. You know, I'm glad to see that Gloria popped on and Armando is rejoining the fold. So guys, I do hate to run, but we do have a standing appointment that we got to get to, but I will be back available on Zoom in a little while. I'll get this uploaded so everyone can catch the replay on that as well. And Darshan, looking forward to having you next week for our session 4. Yeah, we'll see where that takes us. Appreciate you guys.
It will be epic. Thank you guys so much.
All right,
Thank you.
take care,
Have a
everyone.
beautiful rest of your day.
Peace.